Grab your cocktail and get ready for this episode of the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast.
Welcome to the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Freemasons while drinking an old fashioned. I'm Brian, and with me today is the new Oriental guide for Midian Shrine, Jeremy Woodson. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jeremy, have you seen an episode of the podcast?
I've seen a few.
You've seen a few. So you know that we've got shenanigans, but not too terrible.
I'm kind of used to that with you. So
that is true. We've noticed. Well, here, full disclosure. You know what? When we get into the Masonry part of the bit, we'll tell you how we first met and why maybe there's a little bit of pushing back and forth. So, as you know, on every episode of the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast, we like to know as much about the man as we do the Mason. So, tell our listeners, who's Jeremy the man?
Well, I'm originally from Kingman, Kansas. That's where I was born. I was one of 4 boys. So, a rambunctious household. And then after I didn't work with my parents, my dad moved to Clearwater. So I moved there with him. And I gained 2 other sisters and then a 3rd sister. So there were 7 of us total.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
All right.
Big group of kids.
Man, the Woodson bunch.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, my brother passed away a few years ago, about 5-6 years ago. So, it was just, but the rest of us are still here and kicking. So, we're doing a good job. I graduated from Clearwater High School, and then I went to Wichita State. Did that for a while, and really wasn't my gig, wasn't my thing.
Yep.
So I decided to go to work full time and try my luck there. And I worked at a telemarketing company for a few years. Not my
little IntelliCell type ads.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Actually, that's the name of the company.
Yeah, I know where it's at. It's on K42. We do our research too.
Okay, good. Eventually they were sold out to ProMark One, and I worked there, and then they eventually closed the facility here in the Wichita area. And so I left, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I had a severance package and unemployment at the time. So I played golf for a couple months and drank beer and just kind of hung out.
Yeah, that's the way.
Yeah. And then I decided I probably ought to work. So my dad worked for a trash company called SS Express, which was owned by Harold Burtnett.
Okay.
A Shriner, a member of Motor Patrol.
Okay.
And so I got a job there. And I started hauling trash, picking up carts, working in the shop, doing tires, did a little bit of everything. While I was doing that, I was trying to get on at the sheriff's office.
Okay.
So in July of 1999, I started at the sheriff's office. And I've had a pretty full career.
Yeah. Yeah.
During that time, my 2 children were born. Caleb is 24 and Hannah is 21. I also had the pleasure of gaining 2 stepdaughters, Faith and Grace.
The bonus kids.
Yeah. And they're 22.
Okay.
And everybody's working and being productive members
of society. Off payroll?
Yes, they're off. Well, I help out once in a while.
Yeah, they're not fully off of payroll, right?
They're never fully off.
Yeah.
I help them out once in a while, and I currently have a grandson on the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in March.
Oh, congrats. So that's a pain in the ass in our world, but we'll go a different direction. So you've been with the sheriff's department for a long time, and I remember one thing when my daughter was entering law enforcement. Mm-hmm. I'm going to paraphrase it, so clean it up.
Right.
You said something to this effect. She probably I think all LEOs should start at the jail because when they go out and arrest people, they'll know the other side of it.
Exactly.
Is that fair?
That's exactly what
I remember this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've said that to multiple people. And the reason is because you learn a lot of basic skills there. Mm-hmm. You learn how to talk to people. You learn how to de-escalate. You learn how to...
Because you have to. You don't have weapons on you.
Correct. You have no weapons. All you have is your mouth.
Yep.
So it's a really good place to hone those skills. I mean, you learn stuff in the academy. But it does not prepare you for the real world.
Absolutely.
It gives you basic facts and basic tools, and then you have to go out and hone those and make them work for you. So being in the jail gives you an opportunity to be with the clientele that you're
Yep.
going to be serving.
Yep.
It gives you an opportunity to be with them on a more consistent basis.
Yep.
And actually spend time with them and see how it works.
Yep.
You can understand the system better from the inside, so that when you get out on the street, you know what you're talking about.
Yep.
From day one.
Yep.
You don't have to do this. You don't have this learning curve
Yep.
all the way through your FTO. Because when you're in FTO, you're not only trying to hone those skills, but you're trying to learn all the technical stuff too.
Exactly.
And if you can knock one of those out, it makes you much better.
Yeah.
But your daughter did great anyway.
Well, no, but I appreciate that was really a fascinating perspective, and I remember talking to her about it, and you know, because she'd cross paths with you, and she was bringing bad boys in, and
She was younger.
Yeah, nice. So now we've got who Jeremy is, kind of a high level. Walk us through your Masonic journey, when you were raised, kind of where you're at today.
I was raised in the summer of 2007 at Sunflower Lodge. That's my home lodge. And I kind of dabbled in getting on, getting off the line, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of worked on that. I knew I wanted to be in a leadership type position. I'm a lieutenant in the sheriff's office, so I was like, I want to be helpful, you know, and I want to be in leadership. So I did that, but it just kind of didn't work out for me because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't having any fun.
Yeah,
it was not my gig because I'll be honest with you, it was really boring.
Yeah, well, so we talk about this on the podcast. So a lot of the other podcasters, we all have lanes, right? Mm-hmm. And some are very structured. We talk about the full thing with Masonry because not everything's great, right? And so
it's not, and we should address those things. And talk about
absolutely. And so it was boring for you. Just wasn't. It wasn't where you thought it was going to be. So you slid where?
I went to the shrine. Okay. And another good thing is I'm gonna tell it like I tell it like it is.
You should.
I don't hold back.
Yeah.
But I went to the shrine. I started in the shrine in the fall of 2007 when I came in that fall class. That's back when we had the big to do at the Scottish Rite, and then we had the big thing up north at the hotel, and it was a really good time. And I had a great time coming in. Hot Sands, by the way.
Yeah, I was the last class.
The whole deal.
Yeah.
You know, and because you weren't there, I did fall down. Yeah. I did get taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did trust my guide.
Yeah. Yeah.
I made it through.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But and when I very first got into the shrine, it wasn't kind of what I expected. I expected that I was just going to be welcomed in and that it was going to be this awesome time. And I don't know if it was because at the time my top liner wasn't in a position to do that. And so I don't want to talk negatively about him, but I wasn't getting any fulfillment out of it. So
the mentors make a difference.
They do. They make a huge difference.
That's one of the big problems in Masonry in general is not having that Masonry take you all the way in.
And we'll probably discuss that as we move on today. But I decided I had to do it for myself. Yep. Okay. So I just started showing up stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that there was something going on at the temple and I needed to be there. Yep. So I started doing that, and I met some wonderful people. Dave and Sally
Balderson. Yeah.
Okay. I met them, and they said, and Dave was in the director's staff at the time. And he said, Jeremy, he says, I think you should try the director's staff, you know. He says, you'll have a good time, and then, you know, all the stuff that you just did a while back.
And you don't have to parade.
You don't have to parade. So I was like, okay. Even though I kind of wanted to do that, I was like, okay, I'm going to dip my toe in the water first. So I joined director's staff. And I was in there for probably a year or so. And that didn't really suit me either. It wasn't, I was looking for...
They really only do stuff twice a year.
That's right, twice a year.
Yeah.
And I was looking for something that was a more consistent activities together as a group. So I had met a guy named Greg Stobart.
Oh, Hurley.
Hurley. And so he's like, well, Jeremy, you should join Sumner County Shrine. We have something every month. And so I said, okay, so it's $5 a year, right? $5
a year.
Yeah. So you go to these events and you have a dinner every month, and it's kind of like a party.
Yeah,
and
it's a big social.
Time.
Yeah,
a huge social. First time I ever ate calf fries was at Sumner County Shrine.
And you grew up in Clearwater. That's fascinating.
I know, and I never ate them until
fascinating to me.
Right, but I I did that, and they put me on the line, and I became the president of the Shrine Club, and I was like, hey, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
Well, while I was doing that, Greg was like, you should come visit the Keystone Cops.
Yeah, anybody that has Keystone Cops in their shrine centers, you know who these guys are.
Yeah.
You always know, at least in Wichita, we know who these guys are because they got these damn whistles are always blowing. However, I digress. So Keystone Cops,
right?
parade unit, very decorated.
Yep, very,
Midian.
Correct, very decorated unit. They're one of the larger units in Midian, and they're probably one of the major groups that you're going to look toward if you're wanting to be in the center of things.
Yep. Oh, they're the mix of it.
So I did that for a few years. I worked my way up through the line. I was the chief of the cops in 2014.
Yep.
And during that time, half the time in the cops and after, I became the circus chairman for Midian. Yep. I think I want to say it was in Wayne Wells' year, because it went Wayne and then it went a day and then Bart and so
Wayne was 2015, so
yeah,
that makes sense.
So it was about then.
Yeah.
It was about then. And I did the circus chairman gig until we decided not to have a circus anymore.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things going on that were causing those issues as far as a lot of it was out of our control.
Sure, you got internal and external factors
Right.
here with circuses, and any of you shrine centers that do circuses, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a lot of labor and a lot of effort to get those going to raise the money. And at least at Midian, the funds from that was for our temple fund, right? You know, we do a lot that goes to the hospitals. That was for our temple. That was really our operating budget.
It was.
And
and it's almost a full-time job, literally.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, as soon as circus is over that Sunday, you put everything away, and Monday morning, you start working on next year.
You're going to SCAF for what's new out there, what new novelties, what do we have? Yes, oh my gosh.
It's a year-long process to get to that point. But unfortunately, that ended, and I kind of lost my way for a little bit.
Sure.
I wasn't in the mood to join something right away and to take on another role at that time. Because circus was, I mean, it was your purpose.
Special. That was your
purpose.
It
was a very special thing for me. And as soon as I joined the Shrine, I knew I wanted to be involved in that. And I was definitely blessed and given a great opportunity to lead that for Midian.
Yep.
And we made quite a few positive changes, but not everything works every time.
Nope.
So
and it doesn't work each season because what you did here is like, man, we've done it 3 years in a row. This is tired now.
It is.
Yep.
And you have to be able to anticipate what your customers want. And it's very difficult in today's society. And we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But, things are different now than they were in 1970. So we have to adjust to that. But I'll talk about that later. Yep. Anyway, I was in a transition period at that time. I had left the cops. That unit was changing and evolving, and as things do. But sometimes I'm more of a traditionalist in some aspects.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't for me at that time. I mean, I've got the tattoo. I'm a lifelong member.
There you go.
I've got the gold whistle. I'm a cop.
Yeah.
But I was looking for something else. And back then, of course, everyone knows that Motor Patrol is they're our biggest fundraiser for Midian.
Yep.
They raise the most money year after year after year.
Yeah.
So I was already attending their fundraising meetings for the circus.
Yep.
I would kind of go there and give them just that little bit extra time because of the amount of funds that they would raise for Midian.
So the Motor Patrol, for those who don't know, they're a lot of places, they call them the Jeepsters. So at least in Midian, these are the 49 to 51?
48, 49, and 50.
48, 49, 50 Jeepsters. They are like a competition orange, at least where we're at. Some areas, they'll do them in red. And we've had some other folks that have been on our podcast before that they have some red Jeepsters.
All right. But so I was at a meeting one day, and, I'm going to tell you, they're fun. They have a great time. And John Alk, Lister Sir John Alk.
Past Potentate 2006?
Yes, very, very good friend of mine. We were sitting there just having a drink and talking, and he just goes, shh, and passes a petition to me. And of course, both of us were at one time, they attempted to have us join Motor Patrol, but it just wasn't my time, I think. But at that time, I didn't really have a unit. and I was wanting to move forward. I always knew that I wanted to be the Potentate of Midian Shrine from a very early time, and I thought, this might be my way to elevate myself to that level. So I signed it. And I became a social member.
Yep.
And
you'll be a social member for what, 2 years?
1 year.
1 year social member.
And by the time 1 year comes up, you have to have purchased a Jeepster and then become a full member. And your dues actually lower once you become a full member.
Well, because they know that you need money to pay to maintain that Jeepster. So here's everything I've heard about the Jeepsters. The cheapest thing is purchasing the damn thing.
That's true.
And then after that, it's the maintenance. Now, I don't want to scare people off because some people, if you're like Jeff Bro, he can put 50, 100 grand in this thing and it'll look awesome. Or you can maintain it and they're great too, right?
Correct.
So you could spend $1,000 a year or you can put $100 in it.
I have definitely repaired more than I purchased for it.
Okay.
So I've got more into it than I bought it for.
So that is not on the recruiting commercial for the Jeepsters. That has been omitted from the commercial.
Right, correct. I appreciate that. No, but I got into motor patrol, and I instantly had a lot of friends. And so illustrious Sir Rocky McWilliams, he approached me and said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for a Jeep." And I said, "I am." And he says, "Well, mine's at my warehouse in Towanda." So I drove up there and I looked at it, and I knew the Jeep. The Jeep was formerly owned by Harold Burtonette.
Okay.
And so me and my dad had both been around that Jeep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Worked on it. My dad has done quite a bit of work on that Jeep over the years, back in the day. And so I was like, I have to have it. I want it. So we decided on a price, and the Jeepster was mine.
I love it.
And Rocky has been he's been a proponent of me, and he's helped me. He encourages me to continue parading. That was one of the things. If you're going to buy this, you have to roll them. Yeah. You have to roll it. It is not sit in the garage. And so I do. Yeah. I love my Jeep. It's the only one with fuel injection. So it scoots down the road pretty good. And it's a really great time. But so then I did that. And in 2012, I was on the appointed line of the divan. And after that, I really didn't get asked to do a lot of things because circus had stopped. And,
right.
And not really. I don't really understand why, but I just really wasn't getting asked to do a lot of stuff anymore. And so,
but here's the other side of it is the new blood kind of waves in there, and then they're always looking at who's the next hot toy, the next shiny object. When you're new, everyone's doing that. I mean, I went through that cycle of, oh shit, Bird's the shiny new toy, and you kind of go through, and then all of a sudden, Bird doesn't want to do anything. So
I get it.
No, so that's just kind of the cycle. And you know what? There's pros and cons to that. You want to kind of look back at your loyal guys and say, man, they're good. But you also need to identify the new guys coming in because they're actually that next generation.
Very important.
You've seen it, and as you go through this process.
And you had come in the shrine since then, and you were doing well, and we appreciated what you were doing.
Sure.
I mean, coming in and really making a difference. So I understood that, and I just kind of said, you know what, I'm just going to wait. Eventually, I was asked to go on as OG, but it was not the right time for me.
Yep.
It just wasn't. And
that's the other thing. Any of you guys that have aspirations to be a master, a potentate, whatever it may be, just because you're asked doesn't mean it's the right time. Because if everything's not lined up at home, you're going to suck. Because you won't have the support at home. Maybe finances aren't in line. There's a lot of stuff that goes on to being in leadership, and just to go and do that, be patient. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, right?
It'll happen.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt about that. The cream rises to the top, and I know that's kind of a cliche, but it's very true. It's very true. It's going to happen for you. Illustrious Sir John Alk gave me that advice, and he said, because I went to him, and he said, you need to say no. And I'm very grateful that he gave me that. We were sitting in the Oasis, and
he's a great dude.
And he said, Jeremy, you need to say no right now because it's not your time. I still had kids at home. I was still trying to get my career moving.
Coming from John Alk, who was potentate when he had a young child, but it was still sound advice, John. And shout out to Lady Julie. Isn't she the coolest?
I love Lady Julie.
She is the coolest. Yes. When I was doing membership stuff the first time around, John was a resource because he was a membership guy, but but Julie works so much
Oh,
with my
definitely.
wife. She is Queen Bee. I am all, and she's not trying to run the show.
No,
she
not at all. In
understands the role, but Julie Auk.
Yes, she has helped Motor Patrol tremendously over the years. Until just this recently, when we've had somebody else start to take it over, she has always done our Festival of Trees entry, has put it together, collected everything, and done the whole show for us.
Yeah,
she's really been a good help for Motor Patrol over the years.
Well, let's fast forward a couple of things. One, before we forget, I'd like to do a toast. So, in November, the Motor Patrol lost some members, Andy Johnson and Davey Johnson.
True.
So,
no, Davey's still here.
Davey?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that. No?
Yeah, he's here.
Sorry, Davey, if I just I made you kaput.
No,
so we don't edit anything, so it's going to be on here.
We've lost a few members in the last year or so. But yes, Andy Johnson, wonderful man. Great wife, Billy. Have contributed lots to Motor Patrol and Midian over the years. Wonderful man. Yeah, it's so let's fast forward here. Okay. So 2029.
Yeah, that's 2029. Should everything go in elections, progress forward like they are, right? Elections. What is the number one thing in 2029 you'd like to see Midian Shrine accomplish in 2029? The one thing.
My goal for 2029 is pretty much the same goal as I have right now. I want to start to get Midian to where we need to be. It's going to be a difficult journey. There's going to be a lot of uphill battles. I truly believe that we are at the point where we have to start making some decisions if we want to survive in today's society. And so my goal is to, by the time I get to 29, I want to be prepared and have Midian already in the position so that we can just take off. And if that happens before that, then great. If it takes us till 29,
you just get to keep spinning the plate.
Exactly. Yeah. Just keep running going. But if it's not quite taken off, I'm really going to push it in 29. We have to come into the future. We have to change. Now, I'm a traditionalist for most things.
But there's a balance.
There's a balance. And you have to understand what you have to keep sacred and what needs to change to ensure that you have new members coming in and participating in wanting to do those things.
Well, you made the comment earlier when we were talking about circus and novelties and whatnot. It's like it's what the customer wants. I think we forget, folks.
We do.
Our members and our prospects, they are customers.
They are.
We are asking for a little bit of money and time. Time's the commodity.
And sometimes a lot of time.
Right, depending on what they want to do.
Your role.
Right, and so we have to, if we're asking for arguably the most precious commodity of time, we have to be able to give some sort of a perceived value, right?
Correct.
So it's not a monetary, it's perceived. And Jeremy's masonry looks different than my masonry, and your masonry is different than ours. And that's the thing. Once you find out what you think your masonry is, just sit back and let it happen. It's there.
It'll come to you and it'll manifest, however that is.
So what do you think, this is kind of a segue, why do you think more men aren't joining today? Just masonry in general.
I think right now it's a lot of people see it, because I've heard this from many people or possible prospects, things like that. They really don't feel that they have the time. Because nowadays, like when you and I were young kids, we didn't have 50 sports to be in. You might played basketball or baseball or football.
In school, no club stuff. In school,
there was no club stuff. You might have I played rec ball, clear up until I graduated from high school.
Well, if they did have club stuff, my parents couldn't afford it.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because my son was in basketball and club ball, and it gets very expensive, and not everybody has the means to be able to afford that. And so people are especially in today's economy, hopefully it starts to rebound very quickly.
Sure.
But in today's economy, people have to really make a decision on where they're going to put those dollars. Okay.
And it needs to be of perceived value.
Exactly, perceived value. And right now, a lot of people are putting that money into their children, which I think is a wonderful thing. Yep. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I encourage it. And so that's why I actually try to encourage people, if you want to come this way and be with us, I'm all for it. But I need you just to dip your toe in the water, spend some time, continue to
start your clock. Start your Masonic clock.
Start it. Get prepared to go that way. but I want you to stay home and take care of your family right now. And the reason is because the stronger you have it at home, the much stronger you're going to be in Masonry.
No doubt about it. Now, we were at a unique time. I remember seeing the kids coming up to events. Our kids were at events.
Oh, yeah.
And so that made it a lot easier. Having a significant other that's bought in, and that goes in and out. There's times, where my wife's like, you know what, I can't be there 12 nights a week.
And just a funny little story real quick. When I joined Motor Patrol, everybody knows that Motor Patrol is pretty much a male unit.
Sure.
It's pretty much men only. We do bring our wives to the Christmas party.
Sure.
But for the most part, everything we do is just the guys.
Yeah.
When I joined Motor Patrol and I came home that night, she was like, oh, thank God. And I was like, why? She goes, now I don't have to go to any crap anymore.
It was like a different deal. Yeah,
it's totally different. But that was interesting when that happened.
Well, because you think it's going to be one thing. It's like, oh, you mean I don't have to worry about getting another dress and did somebody see me in this dress? Well, who gives a shit? All the the tuxes are the same black tux. Exactly. Maybe we'll switch out the bow tie like we fancy.
Right, exactly.
And Russ Brown and I were talking about tuxes one time, and he made a comment that was hilarious. We were talking about tuxes. How many tuxes do you have? I think I have 3. How many tuxes do you have? I think I have 3 and probably several jackets. And his comment was, we never wear our tuxes out. And it sat there and it took me a second. It's like, oh, that's right. We outgrow them. We have so many tuxes. We don't wear the damn things out. We outgrow them myself. And you're sitting there. It's like, nope, gotta go. I gotta go up a size. Yep, that's it. You know what? Maybe that little watch with the chain will hold this button together so it'll just look better. Oh my God, that's funny. So, do you think we have a little bit of an older message? Does the message need to be tightened up?
I think we do, and I would agree with that. I think we need to probably look at what our message is and maybe see if we can refine that a little bit. I don't want to go too far to the left or too far to the right, but I think we can find a happy medium if we really sit down and think about it and really think about what future we want to see as Masonry and Shining, in general. And I think we need to really move toward that based on what our nobility and what our Masonic brothers are looking for.
Yeah.
But you still keep those basic traditions.
Yeah, you keep your core. I've often wondered, a lot of folks use focus groups. I used them in the business world. So like we go to a college campus of frats and say, hey, listen, guys, we're not trying to sell you on Masonry, but if we were going to try to we're going to pitch a message to you, and we want you to immediately shoot holes in it, and maybe we use these different target audiences as focus groups, and we go in there and say, this is our message, and then have these guys that are graduating and say, well, I wouldn't join because of this. Oh, well, we have this. What's not in your message? And maybe we use focus groups because I think that we think all of us who have been in 15, 20, 25 years, that we're going to be the evolutionists. No, we're tainted.
Exactly.
We're tainted. We have nothing fresh. We're really ready to implement, but it's the new people or the outside focus groups that maybe we need to lean on to find out what message do you want. We're not going to change the traditions, but what would get you excited? What do we need to tell you that we do?
And I think we've made a small step toward that. We've started up with a new Nobles group or unit at Midian. And
the old Club Midian revamp?
Yeah, but it's called... I cannot remember the name, but that's so horrible.
We'll just call it Club Midian.
Club Midian.
Yeah.
But it gives us an opportunity to have these guys come together and really have those conversations. Yeah. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do that. So throw some questions at you. Throw just a couple of questions at you. I've got a lot. You think you get them all? So. If you had a magic wand for Masonry today and you could swing in, boom, tap it one time, what do you want it to do?
Okay.
And it addresses one thing.
I've thought about this before. What I would do, and it's really not a huge thing, but I think it would make a monumental difference, is I want everybody to understand the importance of what we do and understand how we have to do things to ensure that we continue on. I mean, we've seen it all over the country. Other temples, they get small. They don't really have buildings anymore. And a lot of that's due to the participation factor.
The right size in it.
Exactly. So I think as we move forward, my magic wand would be, I need everybody to have the same urgency to carry this on as I do, as you do, And because there's a lot of us.
We have grandsons
like
now. We'd like to drop a fez on.
And I wish that my son had interest in this, but he has none, and that's okay.
That's okay. You know what? Maybe it'd be interesting to ask. You know what? It'd be interesting to ask him. Say, okay, I'm not going to try to get you to join. But what would be the thing that would make you join? Because it might be something we have. He's like, hell, I didn't know that we did that.
Exactly. And I've already spoken to my daughter. My grandson will definitely be involved in Masonry and in the shrine. Now, it will be his choice, obviously, to make that jump.
Right.
But I'm going to expose it to him as much as I can, and give him all the opportunities that I had.
Can you imagine our grandsons come through, fast forward 18, 20 years. Can you imagine in the Blue Lodge degrees how many people would love to put hands on Byrd's or Woodson's grandkids?
There's a few people that would take a shot at that.
Yeah. But you know what? That's what you want. And you know what? You get to handpick. It's like, no, you weren't involved. Absolutely. You get to touch them up.
It's kind of like when I joined the shrine. I was that guy. I got some special treatment, And it was very scary for me, kind of, because I sat there the whole afternoon. And they didn't touch me. And then they bring you a suit to put on, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then you finally come out at the very end. And it's all fun in the end. But, yeah, there are certain people that come around that get that little extra bump.
So before we get to the most important question of the podcast, I want to let you know how Jeremy and I first met. So when our class came through, we were a very electric class. Our class was nuts. We were wild, we were cocky, we were arrogant, all of the above. But a lot of us had went through the Blue Lodge together, did the Scottish Rite class 2 weeks before and came to the shrine. So we kind of knew each other, and we were this little army. So we go to have lunch before we go to the hot sands. And we're sitting in this room, and here come the Keystone cops with their damn whistles and markers. Markers. And I remember you, Hurley, and Darren Cox. They're writing all over our faces, our heads. I mean, just listen, some people are soft-sayed, hey, what they did was actually make us bond. So we're like, you son of a gun. So a few of us, we go into the restroom. We're going to wipe it. And they said, don't you wipe it off your face. We go in the restroom, and we pin the door shut, and we wipe it off of our face. And we said, when we come out of here, we're going to find one. And we're going to go get that gong that the OB has, and we're going to tie up Chris Hahn to that gong, and we're going to carry him around. So Chris Hahn knows his story. And we came out, and I think everyone knew, like, uh-oh. These guys have now colluded. But it was the absolute. Some people will look at this and say, oh my God, hazing, I can't believe you're doing it. You're soft, get over it. It's fine, it's markers.
Very true.
That created maybe we would have had it, but I wouldn't have wanted it done any other way, because that forced us to work together. And it created a little bit of a fun rivalry, because a lot of us that were coming in, we were going to the cartoon unit. And so the cops that were just rolling and just running and gunning, we were the next one up.
Oh yeah, that was the time. That was a heyday for me of being in the cops, and me, Scotty Clark, Moon,
Hurley,
all of Darren Cox was there.
Shirky, who put you on the line, he's not even in yet.
He's not even in the shrine at that time.
And Shirky wasn't even in before. I always tease this every once in a while. I don't tell the whole story on, but. He wasn't even there when I got damn near kicked out of Masonry in the shrine when I emptied a room at a Potentate's ball. I thought it was a roast, but no, it was a breakfast. And Byrd didn't read the room, and woo, baby,
it was an interesting day.
Thank goodness, baby Jesus loves Shriners, because I was almost outski, man. They wanted my butt.
It was close. And there was a lot of talk for a long time, but. We're forgiving people. That's what we do. Well, we're still brothers when it comes down to it at the end of the day.
Right. And the great thing about that is after that, I'm like, oh my gosh. And there, obviously there's a misread of the room. And, there were some people that squawked. And then at the end of the day, it's like, that dummy's still coming around. It's like, I didn't do anything intentional. I'm not going to run from something.
Right.
If I would have just faded away, it would have been terrible.
Yeah.
Now just kind of own up. It's like,
I think it made you a better Mason and Shriner at that point.
Oh, 100%. Well, you know what? That was a perfect time in my life. I needed to eat a piece of humble pie, too, because I was on the path to, I don't have bosses. I'm like, what's going on, boys? And I needed to get checked, and it was the perfect time in my life to get checked.
Right.
It absolutely.
We've all had that point.
Yeah, and really, you've emptied a room of 200 plus?
No, I haven't quite done that yet. So the day's probably coming.
So most important question of the podcast, as you know, as we go to conclude. We'll have four things up on the screens. You have tacos. You have pizza.
Right.
You have wings, any flavor, and burgers. One of these four things has to go forever. It was never invented. Could never be anywhere. What is it and why?
Well, those are all part of my diet.
They're all delicious.
They probably shouldn't be.
They're all delicious.
I'm gonna have to go with wings.
Wings have to go.
Is what I would probably go with.
It's the one that goes the most.
Yeah, I mean, they're wonderful. I love them.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to spend a lot of time at Hooters. You know? Even when it was
for the wings.
Yeah, for the wings. Even when I was on East Kellogg. I mean,
that was the OG one.
It was. Motor Patrol had their own table there with their photo on the wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, East Kellogg, North Rock Road. Whenever I would travel, I would go to them. Bring home.
Did you ever do the passport program? They had a passport. My wife helped me with that all across the country.
But I would bring home a T-shirt to my wife.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You know, that was always fun. But yeah, I would probably let wings go because I just love everything else. I'm kind of a food guy.
Yeah, and you can do so much with the other things as well, right?
Can.
You know, with the variety of tacos and pizza and burgers. So, Jeremy will be back. As you guys know, we're doing the debatable series, and Jeremy's going to be back on these debatable series. We're going to see how he can bang with us on the big table, if he can argue a point, even when he doesn't know what it's going to be yet. So, Jeremy, thanks for joining the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast. Cheers.
Cheers.